All right, so we'll get started. I know a few folks will be joining us later, but I wanted to, even before we warm up, I want to review the recording process because it's so integral to what our work is going to be together this season. So, and I'm going to draw your attention to the level of detail that you want to put on in 3 vectors, okay? One is the pitch. That's why I'll give you the tonic reference track. And so if I am, for example, if I'm playing through the first shorty, all right, first down Boston, what I want to do is after I've warmed up, I want to play that tonic track, and I just want to I want to check my notes for the shorty with that track. So for example, if my shorty is, you know, if those are the notes within my shorty, I'm going to take them kind of one at a time, but I'm going to listen first for pitch. Okay, you get some of this. Okay, so I've already figured out before I even started recording anything what I've reminded myself. I already know this, what my pitch tendencies are, and I've acclimated to that key. That's really important. The second vector is the tempo. And so you can also in GarageBand, you can adjust the timbre or the volume of the metronome. So if you're having trouble hearing that, that's something you might want to consider as well, playing the phrase in time. And the third, and probably the most important one that we tend not to give as much stock, but it's like super wicked important, is the interpretation. And so we'll talk about each of those 3 in turn. But for example, even when there's only 8 counts of a shorty, I could do it 100 different ways. All right, I could go. I could go in between and. But I'm looking for kind of 3 different ideas, even that shorty. The first opening phrase is kind of marcato staccato. Da, 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 da. Each of those 8th notes is kind of bounce puff note. Da, da, da. Now the next 3 notes, each of the next 3 should decay. Da, da, dee, da, and then sustain. And you'll hear as I go through, and I'll show you actually what you see in terms of the sound waves in GarageBand are some slightly different interpretations. But if you're not hearing them, look in GarageBand because that visual representation will reinforce essentially what we want to hear with our ears, okay? So what I'm listening for in that shorty stylistically, and by the way, I'm really particular about where that release is at the end of the phrase, okay? So with that in mind, I am going to attempt to do a screen share with you, and we're going to look at GarageBand, and I'm going to show you what I did this past week after you guys sent me your files. Okay, we're screen sharing. Can you guys all see this? Okay, good. So here's where we started. We gave you the reference track and the tempo. Keep in mind, we set the tempo at 144. So what you heard when you started was this. Okay, and we technically put it in 4. This is, could be in 2, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's binary, it's okay. And you're charged with playing along with that. You get 4 clicks, then you hear this, and then you jump in and play. So what I did is I created all the parts myself. I played through all the high brass parts, synced in separately, and you're gonna hear this. This combination of tonic track, tempo, and my interpretation on all the parts. Okay, now you hear all those elements I just told you about, that beep, bom, bom, beep, bom, bom, bom. Nice clean release on the downbeat of 3 at the end. That's really, really important. And I'll go through and highlight that. So why does that matter? Because now I can go through, I'll remove my training wheels, the tonic track, reference track, but I'm more likely to have this thing in tune because I use the reference track, and in time because I use a click track. And you end up with something that sounds like this. Okay, and I can actually turn off the click as well. Now, here's the really cool part. We can go through and layer in you see everybody who submitted their recordings. I think I'll get everybody. If I didn't, you can let me know at the end of this thing. And then we compare it to see how well we're matching it, because this process there's a lot more scrutiny that's going to be brought to this process this year than usual. When you're right next to each other, you hear in live time, we're making microscopic adjustments. We don't even realize we're making adjustments as we go. That's how we create that sort of ensemble sound. We're gentle reminders. So here we're kind of operating with blinders on, and then we take the blinders down and see how well we did. Like a race, okay, go, and then look and compare. So with that in mind, I'll kind of go through and make notes as we go. Zachary, you're up first. What I want you can tell a couple things looking at this. The shape of the notes matter a lot, okay, and the timing. This gradient here, this tells you where the beats are. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth. So down, up, down, down, down. So far, Zachary looks pretty good in terms of placement of notes. However, the shape of the notes also matters. What you're seeing here are long sustains without decay and then a quick decay. We really want steady decay, steady decay, steady decay. So for example, I'm going to play, this is just the first phrase. I'll play my part first half of the phrase. Okay, now let's contrast that. Zachary. Just Zachary. Sounds like this. Okay, beautiful sound, Zachary, but you can see the shape of the notes is like tube, tube, da, da. Zachary, you hear what I'm saying? So what we want, and we don't have to worry about this now, but we're going to, the beautiful thing about these digital files, you can revisit. I can just swap out. Zachary, like, you know what? I want you to just change that one thing, send me a new file, boom, I bump it in, okay? This is less important now because we have some recordings of this, but it's going to be very important very quickly as we record the new shorties or shorties we don't have recordings of so far, especially those we want to sample for our dance mix. We've got to be vigilant about the style, okay? Jackson, you're up next, all right? I'll just do Jackson's with mine. So you're going to hear the reference recording along with Jackson. Okay, so not bad. And I'm going to address a couple pitch things. Jackson, you're slightly ahead on the very beginning, that da, 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 and then it kind of bounces back in tempo. But you can also see again, if the beats, the waves are a little bit on the front end of it, that's a factor. Your E, Jackson, and your G are both flat. Even a G is rare to be flat. I think you're obviously attempting to lip it down, but that last note at the end. So da, 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 little low, da, dee, da, 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 those two notes a little low. With that in mind, listening one more time just for that, for pitch. Okay, you can hear that in context of the ensemble. Henry was asking at the beginning, you know, could you record it with the reference track I gave you with the band playing it? Don't do that. That's for style, but we recorded that outdoors, and the problem is a lot of times the ensemble sounds slightly lower because it's cold, all right? So listen to those reference tracks for style, and we'll always talk about style. Interpretation is everything. It's not the notes, it's how we play the notes. It's what we're saying with the notes. That's everything. But the pitch in those couple notes, Jackson, okay? Just pay a little bit more attention to. James, my friend, you're up. Okay, this is James. Okay, good. James, everybody loves that vibrato. I'm going to tune you down just a little bit so we're more balanced. Also, James, you're kind of pinning it a bit. Yeah. Okay, that's okay, but you want some shape to this. If it's maxed out, I would probably turn down the gain on whatever it is you're recording, okay? Also, James, your vibrato is gorgeous for a soloist, but a vibrato in a section will make it sound like it's out of tune. I once knew a kid who put vibrato in Mars. He went da 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 da. You wouldn't believe it. Seriously, it was so jarring to me. Well, I want to tell us another story for another time. James, the other thing, my friend, is you're slightly ahead on the tempo. And again, you can see it here. So if you guys aren't sure, when you dump it in GarageBand, and Matthew McCoy maybe or Connor give us an update on Audacity, I'm not sure if that's the same sort of gradient system here. Again, you can determine where this is. Let's say this is ahead of where I wanted. You can go in. I'm just going to identify one beat here. Let's say I'm going to put the drop down cursor thing right here, and I can go under Edit, and I can split regions of playhead. If that's, I mentioned this last time, right? I can just move that back to get it in time. It doesn't mean the inside has to re-record the thing. If everything else is great, it's just time, you can do a quick edit yourself. That's fine. We're going to do it again without the vibrato. But in the same thing in the head, you can see we're kind of getting ahead. This is pretty close. This is definitely ahead. This was a lot ahead. So I'll undo that just so we can still hear it one more time. I'll undo the split. And again, this is what I'm listening for, but more importantly, I want you to listen for as you put it together. If you can save us all the step, you clean that up in your recording and listening, it makes everything easier. One more time, James. Beautiful sound, James. Just take the vibrato out and then make sure you can hear that metronome, okay, to stay in time.
Yep.
Sean is up next. Okay, pretty good. We're going on Matthew McCoy. Here we go. Okay, style is exactly right, Matthew. I would just check, again, some of those notes. And for trumpet players and mellows, there's certain notes that we know are going to be kind of problematic for us for pitch. So, Matthew, you have, it's the A and the B natural. Bop, bop, bop. The A and B are both low. And then at the very end of that line, the D and the E, okay? So just watch those. Okay, good. Continuing. Just as an illustration here for everybody here, we've got Elliot. Okay, Elliot, pretty good. Same kind of thing was with Matthew, though. The A and the B are low. The D was pretty good for a low note, and the E was a little bit low as well. So just listen. And I look at those notes and I mark them. Again, here, if I'm playing through something that sounds funky, you don't have to go through the whole shorty again. Double back, nice and basic, tonic track, quick check. Okay, and I'm really thinking as I go through that line, lipping up those notes. And like I'll even have my eyebrows come up, just psychologically to give myself the extra lift to get those notes in tune. By the way, I'm being super nitpicky, okay? Most of this stuff is really quite good, but to sync it together, we all have to be vigilant about that. All right, very good. Audrey. This is Audrey reference. Here we go. Good, Audrey, just the B and the E, okay? The B is a little bit low and the E is low. The other A was pretty good, the D was pretty good as well. So especially D, E, I'm literally like eyebrows up here, D, E, thinking up to get that note up. That's an all-the-time thing for trumpet players. Sachin. Okay, Sachin, not bad. Again, it's just a pitch thing at the end. And this is, to be fair to everybody, especially if you're new, I would encourage, in fact, I'm going to ask that everybody please look through those 4 tutorial videos that I sent you. Even if you're a veteran, they're only 10 minutes long each, roughly. Just look at them one more time and review, because I've gone through a lot of sort of fundamentals. But particularly where this is concerned, these reference tracks, the veterans know this, but if you're new, we spend a lot of time on this. This stuff is gold for us to really let the tonic track pour over you and find the most resonant spot for every note. It's life-changing. Like those who've worked with me outside of this, Zachary has, Paige has, James and I put some time in the spring. When you really discover like, wow, like I was playing out of tune. You're working harder if it's out of tune than if it's in tune. If it's in tune, it just resonates and everything's bigger. But so the timing was great, Sachin. It was just the pitch on some of those. And I would just make sure we isolate each note in the phrase first before we play it. Also, Sachin, the release is on 3 at the end. Bum, 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 bum. Nice and clean that release, all the way to the releases for everybody. Henry, I already played this earlier, but everyone else get a chance to hear. This is Henry. Good, and that was well done. The only thing is, Henry, I forgot to mention this. I can hear the metronome in your track, so make sure that the metronome's only in your ear. These little notches are the metronome, but style was exactly right. Very good. Connor is up. Good, that's very good, Connor. I would say I would check the levels again in that one. It's interesting, it looks like it's small here, but the volume was more intense. The thing that makes me concerned about it is the shape of the notes is the same, so you might have been maxed out in the gain as well, kind of like James. So just play with that a bit. Also, I'm not sure if your bell was really close to the microphone, but it sounds like I could hear the tongue. You might want to just be more gentle with the tongue, or even it might just be a function of backing the bell away slightly. But the style is good, and timing is good as well. Hannah? Very good. Just watch the B natural, C natural at the end, and also the A flat or G sharp, whatever that note is, the chromatic line. Da, 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 da. We really kind of want to lean into those chromaticisms. And that's another thing where I would check that, by itself. So I have a real good sense of confidence that I have those in tune. Okay, and that's the process. These are only 8 count phrases. They're really short. It's worth getting those notes in tune. It's like, okay, like driver's ed. You're about to get in your car. You're going to drive somewhere. You don't just like get in the car and step on the gas. You get in the car. You check the seat. You check the mirror. You put the key in. You turn the key. You put the car in gear. You slowly lift your foot off the. Actually, look before you lift the foot off the brake. Foot off the brake. You survey the landscape. There's all these sort of checks and balances before we move the car. So put the own checks and balances in place before you play the phrase that you're working on. Okay, that's why these resources are here, and we're all using the same resource. So theoretically, it all aligns in the end. Okay, that was good as well. Hannah was good. Okay, switching to mellows. We don't have mellows here, but let's see who is here tonight. I already worked with Jill and Darnell. Catherine's here. Catherine, here we go. Okay, it's pretty good. It's a little bit rushed, Catherine. You could see that too with the where you're starting that line versus a little bit later, and make sure the vowels are pounded. That's a difficult line. We want to hear every note. In order to hear every note, we have to feel every note, which means pounding the vowels in that line. It's also a syncopated line. Beep, bum, ba, beep, bum, beep, ba, ba, da, 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 da. So I have to know what that down beat is to get that release in time as well. All right. I don't know if any other, I know Heidi's here, and Dean and Peter are not. Josh, let's do you, Josh. Okay, and then we get one more special treat. So this is Josh. Okay, Josh, that's very good. Watch the pitch on the D. You guys have to have your slide in mellow. So that's a pesky note for us. You're going like this. Slide in. Slide out a bit. Slide out a lot. So. And slide back in slightly for that F. So again, mellows, I know it's your lot in life. You use that first slide almost like a valve with how much you move that. But that was actually quite good. Josh, I want to hear every note on that ascending line. Practice that for dexterity. And lastly, you guys, this is a treat. We got a multi-section instrumentalist in Jackson. Here's Jackson with the trumpet section, solo tuba. Pretty good, Jackson. And then the only other thing I'd say, quick note for Jackson, is really dee da da dee da dee da da. So make sure there's only 4, we're at 3-4 notes in that whole line, that we really lock those, because especially for bass voice, we're stacking up, like Legos or Jenga on top of that. It's got to work in the bottom. All right. That's how this works. And now I'm going to I already showed you briefly, if I had a line that doesn't look like it lines up, I don't have to even know whose this is. If I see this looks like where the beat is, but something's here, I could do a quick edit, but I would like you guys to do that. I showed you already, but just a quick reminder. I go to the top, select this, under edit, split regions at playhead, slide it back, bang, okay? And all of a sudden, a phrase is usable that might not have been usable otherwise. Good, all right, so with that, I'm gonna stop. I've done the same thing for Camino Burana already. I've already put the tonic track in, and I've overdubbed all the parts. So we're gonna, in live time tonight, after we warm up, you guys are gonna submit the recordings, and I'll slide them in as I get them, and we'll kind of take a quick cursory look at that as well. Remember, this is all just streamlining the process, getting us familiar with our own equipment, comfortable with the editing process, so that when we do get to some of these new shorties, especially pieces we haven't done before, I wanna hit the ground running. On that note too, I want us to be able to assemble section videos that highlight. You can pick one that you want of the shorty book. In fact, if you want, because we have technically a week before, but we have one more week of these sessions, a week off, and then we have camp starts. But during that week off, if you guys want to work on individually a particular shorty and send the tracks to me, like a 4 or 8 bars, I will assemble them in GarageBand, edit them, clean them, send them back to you, and maybe we can make a kind of fun video of it to start camp and show other sections what kind of what we've been doing the foundation. As a footnote to that, some of you have seen the BC announced the football schedule for the season. They're not planning to have fans, at least to start the year, in game, and that includes us. So they're not planning to have people other than the team in place. We have requested consideration for distanced stands playing, but I don't know, there may be city ordinances, state ordinances that prevent us from doing that. No problem. We have a plan in place. This is the plan. We're capturing our media now. I'm glad that we're thinking about it, working on it, planning for it ahead of time, so we can still find ways to contribute even if we're not there in person. All right. So let's make sure that this work is our highest quality. Very good. Warming up. You're going to mute yourselves. I am going to go through number 1. I'll take it at moderate tempo, maybe a little slower than last time. All right, here we go. You're muted. Number 1. 1, 2, 1. Good. All right. Who was going to, Jackson's going to have you do 1 this week too. Who else wants to take, Jackson, you're going to do 3. Is that right? You don't need pitch track in this one, Jackson. That's just metronome for this one. And we could do, Jackson, we could use 116, slightly slower than last time is okay.
Okay.
All right. Everyone's muted. I'm going to mute myself here too. Number 2. He's going to count us off and with Matt. Here we go.
How's this? Right? 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and
Very good. Okay, just a quick reminder, Jackson was doing this, and that's why he's holding that last note. We should all do this as well. When you get to that last note, remember I told you about that cross-check for pitch? This is in the tutorials, those 4 tutorials I already sent you. Please look at those and pay attention to them. I get to that last note because we're on false fingering. Is sharp, sharp, sharp. I cross-check against. Okay, so make sure for 1 and 3 you're out a bit, 1, 2, and 3 are out a lot. Excellent work, Jackson. Who wants to take us through number 3? All the volunteers. James, it is. Yep, James, you're up. Thank you, James.
Just a metronome.
Yeah, Met's fine. 116. We'll go slightly slower than last time.
All right.
Lots of air. As James is getting that set up, everybody, for new members, we haven't gone through this with you, but if you've been in a marching band before, we mark time with these. If you've not been in a marching band, it just means we move our feet in time with the pulse. All we're literally doing is stepping on left, right, and the heel of one foot comes up to the ankle of the other, so that we don't lift our feet totally off the floor. the platforms of the feet stay down the whole time. But if you want to try that, just keep in time. It's not probably going to be a factor very much at all for us this year, but it's a good habit to get into. It helps to remind you of the kind of sense of pulse, and it's going to make the following year a lot easier if we do. So to keep that in mind. All right. So we're starting on the very last note we just finished with, but we now have eighth note slurs, and James is going to guide us through. Make sure you guys are muted. Move your feet if you're comfortable doing that. Everybody breathe together.
All right. One, two, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good. Now, one final thought on that one. We don't use a reference track on that, although we could actually program in each tonic and then clicks, and we might do that considering how often we play these exercises. But if you have a tonic track reference ready to go, you could play through those exercises, and then in that last note, you could just like hit a button to play the B flat tonic reference track because there's a chord, and you can make sure you double check, triple check your voice in that chord at the end of the line. Okay. Sometimes there are delays. So I don't know if, at least on my computer, I got a little bit of delay in the middle of that phrase. Just adapt. The good news is we hear James and the click. So if we have to make quick micro adjustments as we go, that's fine. I want to make one quick note before we leave that exercise and remind you that these are air exercises, and it's the stream of the air, the steadiness, the stream of the air, the shaping of the air that makes that line speak. So for example, okay, I'm very fluid with the air. You have to be open. You're not thinking, like, tell my sons, not Max, but Troy and Vic. There's a tendency to think like, no. We're not slicing and dicing. We are gliding across that line, and we are shaping the air as we go. That's critically important. If any of you is having trouble with this, I mentioned last time how important slurs are, flexible exercises. If you're having trouble with those, let me know. I would love to spend time with you, separately we can Zoom or whatever, and I'll be able to hear what's happening and give you some guidelines and advice. But in order to have mastery of your instrument, it starts with mastery of the air, shaping the air stream throughout the full range of the instrument. That's critically important, okay? All right, awesome. To the task at hand. 2 recordings tonight. First one is O Fortuna. It's shorty number 3. And we're gonna go through the exact same process that I was telling you before. We're going to start with a reference track, and I'm going to give you a chance to tune each of the notes that you're playing with the reference track, because this gets a little crunchy, okay? And I want to make sure that we can, before we lay this down with the recording, we can actually hear that, okay? So for example, this starts with, it's a concert D. So I can start, if I want to start on that note, I can. Or I can land on it, but the first 3 notes for like trumpet 1, I'll start with the concert D just as reference, and then I'll play the first 3 notes. You hear, I'm listening for the slotting of the notes, the most resonant spot of those notes. So I'm just finding my way around, navigating around that space. So when I finally get to playing that line in time, I know where the targets are. And that's important, because if I just think, oh, I know the notes, I'll turn a reference track and the beat and just plunk them in there. It doesn't work that way. If I take the few seconds to lock those notes and let my armature reacclimate to what the target is, it's a lot easier to when I have to play it in time, to get it in tune. okay? Because I just spent a few seconds reacclimating myself to the goal. All right, now with that in mind, I plunked in all of those tracks, just the high brass, okay? So this is all of the trumpet mellow parts. Sounds like this. Okay, so that was I just, put each of the parts in a GarageBand, just like we're all going to do together. And that's like a reference, for me, and then I'll place everybody else in that context as well. Quick notes on the style interpretation of this one. Slight decay, but connectivity. 1, ta, ti, ta, ta, off. Don, don, ti, don, 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 da. Crescendo and da. Full value on all those notes. 1, 2, release. Or for new members, what we get into most of these shorts is 2 counts. We call it a lock, lift, release. Lock to balance and pitch everybody else. Lift with everybody else. Release the note together. That's what we're looking for. All right. So before we record this, take a quick second. You guys all have your tonic track. Put on the tonic. We're going to mute yourselves. Put on the tonic concert D track, concert D, and just play the notes in that shorty. Some of you have like only 1 or 2 notes in the whole thing, but just play through those notes and find the most resonant spot. And I'm going to give you a line to this. It should take less than a minute. All right, everybody mute, tonic track, and go. Just check notes. Don't record, just check pitch. Okay, good. Now that was just to check that the notes, the building blocks for what you're about to construct are in the right place, okay? So does anybody want to kind of live stream a recording for some feedback before we all kind of go separately? Zachary, you're up. So Zachary,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, no, if you can do it, no, put it through your speaker, not the earbuds, because we want to be able to hear the click track and the tonic track and you for now.
All right. That might take me a second here because
That's all right.
Okay.
It's basically going to be the recording process, but unplug your earphones.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully I can get the audio right, but yeah, give me 1 second here.
Yep. You're fine. Okay, I didn't hear the click or tonic track on that. Did you hear it? Zachary?
Yeah. I don't know. Something's going on with my audio.
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's okay. So the point is that you would hear that through your earbuds. Style was good on that one.
Yep.
A little bit more air in that. We want this to be vibrant. This is not a happy tune. So you got to really, for this goes everywhere. It's in those 4 videos I showed you, tutorials. Roll down that lower lip for the color that we want in those first 3 phrases. Nice clean release on 3, a little more color. By the way, you guys are playing, I think it's maybe written that way. If you've got a quarter note on beat 4, you don't have to play that quarter note again if it's written there. You can just go right through the downbeat. It sounds better that way. Beep, bop, beep, bop, 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 crescendo, crescendo, da. You don't have a quarter in there. Zachary, why'd you play a quarter there?
Dave, I couldn't tell you. It's because I couldn't really hear the click, and I was like,
You're making me second guess what I wrote. I'm like, why would I do that? Okay, good. All right, good. Now that we get that figured out, did you guys get the D-tonic track? Email, I hope? Okay,
yep.
Plug it in, quick record, and then we'll regroup. Go.
And what's the tempo on this, Dave?
84, yep. And I'm putting them in the file as you send them to me, guys, okay? It's great. I got 3 so far. Very good. Mellows, if you can hear me, make sure those second mellows get that slide way out for the A at the top and the E underneath it. Really important. You only have 2 notes in the whole shorty there, mellows, so make sure you pitch check. Audrey, thank you. Audrey, why is yours such a large file?
I'm not sure. It wouldn't let me not have it as a large file. I tried multiple times to re-export it, and it wouldn't. It was being weird. I don't know
Okay. You know what I think it was, Audrey?
what happened.
I think there's that much more quality than everybody else's, so it's jam-packed. Also, for some reason, it continued on a wicked long time. So maybe next time, just stop recording sooner, because it registers if you record it for another several minutes, I think.
There
Okay.
might have been like an unchecked region, like just way out where you were like messing around, and
Okay.
yeah, you gotta remember to delete everything. It's annoying.
Also, Audrey, not just a quick note on looking at it. Make sure you can hear the metronome. It looks like you ended up about a beat behind at the end. You might have lost one beat in your counting. Not a huge deal, but I can see it by that second phrase. Actually, I'll do a quick share screen so you guys can kind of see what I'm seeing so far. So this is what I've put in so far. I've got Sean's, Zachary, Jackson, Elliot, and Audrey. Audrey, you can see we're starting okay, but there's a delay by this point, and then we should be lined up on beat 2 of that third measure of the phrase. So we want to see the beginning of notes start here. And actually, Elliot, you'll be behind by then too. You look like you're about an eighth note behind. You're midway between the beats, and looks like Audrey, you're full beat behind. Okay, just now here's as you guys are still sending them in. I'm going to do a really quick edit. This is a rough edit, but this is just like I told you before. Doesn't mean we have to get rid of it. Elliot, I'm looking at yours. Okay, I selected yours, and I'm going to split the regions here at the playhead like I told you about. I'm just going to move that forward. Okay, I'm taking existing what you played, and I'm just lining it back up to get it kind of back on track. Audrey, same. And this is not going to be totally clean yet because I'm not doing a final edit on it, but it'll get me in the ballpark. Make sure I'm not stepping on the note. Do a quickie. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? And I'm moving it back into where it should be. Okay. And that's all it takes. We're assuming the thing's in tune. You can see the releases are probably a little bit late as well. It should be on the downbeat. So be very particular about where those notes are aligned. I think, Audrey, I think you held the first note for 3 beats instead of 2. It looks to me like that's what happened. See that? Because you're about a full quarter note behind.
I can re-record right now.
If you want to do it, sure. But this is great. This is exactly why we're doing this, so we can, kind of in real time say, oh, I get like minor tweaks, but you can do that before we even listen to it. All right, got a bunch more coming in. I've got Matthews. I'll put these in quickly, and that's, I'll just take the few that I have now. If you haven't got a chance to send it to me yet, don't sweat it. But I just want to show you kind of how this process works, so we, can continue to streamline it as we go. Every week. I feel like we're we've only been doing this a short time, but we're getting better by leaps and bounds. And this is exactly why we're doing it now, because by the time we hit virtual camp, we want to know exactly how our equipment works, exactly what we're listening for, and be able to plow through a lot of shorter material and assemble it really quickly. This year is going to be all about getting our stuff out on media, social media, online, streaming, the like. All right. So take these last few that I just pulled in. Matt McCoy. Heidi. And James. All right, can you guys see the GarageBand screen now? Or what are you looking at? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna go with what we have, all right? And we'll do the quickie comparison, just like we did at the beginning with First Down Boston. James, it looks like a lot of lead time before you started to play here. Oh, James, I don't see any sound from you.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, that's all right. Resend or maybe re-record and send, it's okay. All right, so just really quickly, this is like, rough and tumble, no big deal. But let's just listen to a couple of them. Here's the first 2. I'll take the click off. Okay, good. Just watching pitch at the end there. We got an odd kind of a jump in terms of the volume level. I'm not sure what to attribute that, but stylistically was good. Zachary. Zachary, now I'm getting the metronome that I don't want. Your metronome came through the recording. Make sure it's only in your earphones. Maybe your earphones are unplugged, okay?
Yeah, that was bizarre. I don't know why that happened, but
That's okay. But that's why we're doing it now. This is, guys,
Yeah.
this is all right for everybody. It's just a chance for us to streamline the process. Jackson. Jackson, that was excellent. I mean, that was an excellent blend. Okay, this is exactly what we're looking for. Quick nod to Elliot. Good, very good, Elliot. A little bit late on that release, but I think the last note spoke. I think you just got off slightly on the tempo here, but the pitch and interpretation were excellent. Okay, and you can see that quick edit I did all of a sudden made it, really a very usable, presentable file. Good, Audrey. Good, and everybody's jumping in that interval. It's not your fault. That's just the way the blend works. I'll be able to fix that in editing. Yeah, Audrey, that was it. Very minor. You just held that one beat extra. Not bad. All right. I won't play through the others, but this is how we assemble it. Okay, so these are things I'm listening for and looking for as well. So with that in mind, we're gonna stop in a minute here, but I want to before we go, I want to play through the interpretation I'm looking for number 4, because I'm still gonna have you record that and send it to me. All right. Number 4 is about marcato puff notes for everybody except the third trumpets who have sustain. Okay, most of us have this variations on the pulse. Fat notes with compressions, releases. Fat notes. I just covered this with the music. Sorry about that. Fat notes with compressions and releases. Let me stop screen share so you can see. All right, here's fat notes, right? Okay, so that da, 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 if you could, I'm going to lower this a second. Those compressions are right in here and setting. Watch this. Okay, that's all about shaping the air. These are all air exercises. So when you create that, that's what we're looking for stylistically. Oh, I forgot. The third trumpet's, I think the third top part has eighth notes, just staccato. Sounds like this. And I'm giving a little more emphasis on the B at the beginning of those lines to get that in tune. All right. If you have the sustained E's, it's a big note decay. That's all she wrote. We have different variations and harmonizations on that. Mellows, make sure if you're top mellow, you go up the second time. All mellows are in the lowest but the first time, and more than half can go up the second time because that divisi is so important to lifting the shorty. Any questions on shorty 4? Tonic is D, tempo is 144, and you don't need to repeat. Just do it once is totally fine. Okay, once through. I'll stick around in case you guys have questions, but otherwise you can just go record it at your leisure and then send it to me just like you did with the others. I'll plunk it in the file, and next week we'll start with a review before we go to the last 2 shorties that precede virtual camp. All right. So before we do that, are there any questions on either what we've already done or we're just about to do?
For this one, did you want the repeat at least for mellows?
Oh,
of the VC?
I forgot about that. That's a good point. Let's do this one with repeat. I forgot because Mellows, I do want to hear the VC second time through. So good question. Let's do that with repeat. Thank you, Sean. Henry, you had something. Yep.
How do we know if we're doing the sustained part or the other part if we're trumpet 3?
You should please play the moving line. Da, dee, da, dee, da, dee, da, dee, da, dee, da. And if folks are less comfortable with that, you can do the sustained part. The sustained part isn't as important because I've got a lot of sustains in the low brass. So I prefer more people on that moving line if possible. If they can't do moving line, just do sustains. Good questions.
Just clarifying for mellows, do you want So you want us all on the bottom part first time through and then go up second?
I would have as many as can do it clean the second time through. If you're uncomfortable for pitch or getting the notes to speak, you can stay in the bottom part. But yeah, that's the most important, that upper divisi on that one, Catherine. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on this?
So we are doing it with repeat?
Yes, please, Matthew. Yep. So I can catch that, the divisi on that one. Yeah. This is great. I mean, I know this seems like at the beginning, it's kind of like, you know, a mind warp to get your head wrapped around all this stuff, but it is getting better by leaps and bounds already. And then start thinking about what you guys want to do, because I want to start the season, maybe even that week I said, before the end of these Zoom sections to start a virtual camp. Be really fun if we were able to put together a high brass, whatever. You pick a shorty that you really like a lot, we'll put the thing together in GarageBand, maybe do like a kind of fun video that corresponds to that as well. We do need media content. But everybody's getting better. The sounds are getting closer to that section sound that we need as well. So if you want to go and you can record it, I'm going to stick around. So if you want to stay in case you have questions to do it, or have other questions you want to talk about, that's fine too. I'll stick around. Otherwise, record and send shorty number 4, and we'll resume with 5 and 6 next week. Okay? You guys doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.